say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false.
A lot of us remember where we were when President Clinton told that infamous lie to a stunned American public. It was just one of the many surreal events that forever changed politics, the media, and the presidency in many ways. In fact, it was 20 years ago today that that story first broke with the headline on Drudge Report, a place nobody had even really heard of at the time. Newsweek kills story on White House intern. Blockbuster report, 23-year-old former White House intern, sex relationship with the president. The media frenzy ensued, and it became one of the first breaking bombshells that this network ever covered. Take a listen.
Could President Clinton have had an affair with an intern and then try to cover it up?
A Clinton bombshell. The president faces a new scandal that is rocking the White House.
Whitewater independent counsel Kenneth Starr is reported to have a number of audio tapes on which a former White House intern, Monica Lewinsky, told fellow staffer Linda Tripp that she was sexually involved with the president.
Howard Kurtz, Fox News media analyst and host of MediaBuzz, was there then, and he joins me now. Howie, it's hard to believe that this was 20 years ago in some ways, and in some ways, honestly, it seems like a whole lot longer ago than that. How do you think it changed? How did it change the media? How did it change the presidency?
It was such a different culture. I mean, just pointing to the Drudge Report, kind of a third-tier site that most journalists didn't follow or trust. I knew about it because I'd done an early story on Matt Drudge. So the mainstream media gatekeepers didn't really follow that up about Newsweek spiking the story. It wasn't until days later the Washington Post independently reported on Ken Starr's investigation, and the whole thing exploded. As far as politics, I mean, it showed that a politician, even a president, could survive the grossest kind of sexual graphic allegations about a young woman. And it also led to the repeal of the special prosecutor law because Ken Starr originally was investigating the Whitewater land deal in Arkansas. And in a way, it paved the way for Hillary Clinton's political career as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think that the investigation was going on for 18 months before President Clinton and Monica Lewinsky ever met. And that's what the special counsel ended up hanging their case on, something that didn't even exist in the beginning when they started digging into the Whitewater matter. And I think it, brings to mind the way people look at the special counsel now and how wide-ranging those investigations can be. Ken Starr himself has had misgivings about the way that whole thing went, Howie.
Right. But also, if you look at the way the media handled it, because it was like today with Trump, it was 24/7 every single day, cable, front pages, for more than a year as the president was ultimately impeached and, of course, acquitted by the Senate. The public, a majority of the public, didn't care as much about this 24/7 sex scandal as the press did. I mean, leading Washington pundits went on the air and said Bill Clinton was going to resign. Certainly the public was disgusted by what Bill Clinton did, especially as the details finally came out. But more people cared about the booming economy and their own lives than the fact that he lied about this sexual encounter.
Yeah, I mean, there are fascinating parallels, even with the burying of the story. You think about NBC having the Harvey Weinstein story and not publishing it, and the way that story ultimately came out. I do want to ask you before I let you go, we've been sort of waiting to see if these fake news awards are going to happen. They've been postponed a couple of times, and apparently there's some debate within the White House about whether or not this whole thing is a very good idea, given the climate. What do you think, Howie?
These elusive awards. Well, I think the president's already accomplished his goal, which has gotten all of us to talk about it, and he's put a spotlight on what he calls fake news. I think some people, some news organizations may want to get these awards. They can use it as a badge of honor. Look, I think he's trolling the press here, whether he does the awards, doesn't do the awards. Will there be popcorn? Who's the decider? Is it just Trump? Does he have a staff, a team? I think he's made his point, but he may not be able to resist. Maybe I think the staff saying, not such a good idea. We could just move on to the next crisis.
Well, Senators Flake and McCain have both spoken out very forcefully about what they see as the danger of injuring the credibility of the media. Do you agree?
I think that some of them made good points, but I think that Jeff Flake in particular undermined his argument when he compared President Trump to Stalin in his treatment of the press. The president is entitled to attack the press when he thinks he's been treated unfairly or when he thinks that the press is wrong, without being compared to a guy who was a Soviet mass murderer. I think that was a real mistake on Senator Flake's part.
Thank you, Howie. Great to see you tonight.